Hello, I'm Dalton Delan. I'm a columnist for the Berkshire Eagle, and this is Eagle Reels, where we take you beyond the news. My guest today, Matt Tannenbaum, owner of the Bookstore in Lenox, Massachusetts. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Dalton. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Matt, in an era in which 50% of book sales are online, make the case for us. Make the for a bricks and mortar bookstore. Why should we visit?
It's because the bookseller who you visit, whether it's me or anyone else, has a knowledge and a love of the material, the product, the unit, the piece of cardboard and paper that we know about and love, and we know how much you love it too. So when you're going online to do something like to buy a book, it's this solitary experience. We want you to have your solitary experience after you buy the book from us. After you, when you go and sit down, whether it's at a picnic table or a hammock or your armchair, wherever it is, but we want to be part of your equation because we love books and we are steeped in it. And you just don't get that. And you walk into a bookstore like mine, and I have a backlist. And Dalton, you know about this because you've been a bookseller, and the backlist is the heart of the bookstore. It's the new hardcovers that are the, what do you call it, when you buy milk in the market. It's a loss leader, right? I mean, I don't have a loss leader because I don't discount my books. But the people come in for that, but then they stay and they see what else Elin Hildebrand has, or after they browse Elin Hildebrand, then they'll find Wallace Stegner, and they'll say, well, "Who's Wallace Stegner?" Or they'll say, "Hey, I remember Wallace Stegner." Or someone else with you will say, "Have you ever read Spectator Bird? You got to buy this book right now because it's here, and you're here, and this is how it works." I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Oh, you're so right. I remember in the bookstore I managed, my favorite thing was, if you liked this, try this. And
Yeah.
sure, there are algorithms online, but I knew my customers. I got to know them as human beings.
The algorithms, I think online, I don't know if this is a rumor or what. The algorithms are like paid for. It's like when publishers would pay the bookstores to put their books at eye level.
Yeah,
We they no publisher ever paid me to put their book eye level.
there you go. And end cap eye level. No, you're absolutely right. I've been in that business and I know all about search engine optimization.
It's the industry standard is stack them high and watch them fly. But we don't do that here. What we do is we have just one copy. In the hardcovers, we just have one copy. Many people say, "Is this your display copy?" I said, "I put that one there for you." And that's just another way of being with the customer. And I'll go get my other copy. But this is what I put out there for you. The paperbacks we keep nice and low, so we have. When you come to visit my store, you'll see we have sight lines. You don't feel hemmed in. You're not blocked in somehow. You realize there's a whole store full of books. I love walking by and telling people, and there's more books in the other room, or there's books everywhere, aren't there? And you just engage with the customer. You can't engage with the customer with an algorithm. That's the treat. That's the treat for us booksellers.
You're absolutely right. And you are one engaging bookseller. The number of independent bookstores have rebounded recently after
Right.
and more than two-thirds of readers still prefer paper. Do you believe, looking forward, Matt, that ebooks and print books can coexist?
I believe so. I believe so. I don't like the ebooks, especially. I have a hard time with them. I even have a hard time with audiobooks, but I know people like audiobooks. People get their literature, get their fix, get their story told to them while they're driving, while they're taking a train ride, something, or on the subway, something like that. For me, I need to pay attention to the book. So yes, I think ebooks can coexist. I don't. I don't know who these people are. One time I saw a guy on the street. I hadn't seen him for years, and I thought, "Hey, Lou, I haven't seen." And just then I realized he'd been buying, you know, and I stopped myself and I did say, Lou, I want you to come in. I have a bill for you for all the books you haven't bought lately. And Lou never came back.
Well, Matt, maybe it was just an avatar of Lou. We don't know if it was the real Lou or a
Oh,
simulation.
that could very well be.
There you go. Um, Now, the pandemic, which during a wonderful film, Hello Bookstore, that was made about you in the bookstore recently, it featured the real in-depth, step-by-step how you did deal with the pandemic and all of that, and how a day's sales got reduced to what a week used to be, and you were a pioneer in doing a GoFundMe. And that GoFundMe, you ended up doubling your original goal. You raised more than $125,000 from 1,200 people, which is incredible, I think.
We
How did
we
that
did
make
it,
you feel?
it was the most gratifying over the years we've had people every day come in and say, we like to support your bookstore. We like to support your bookstore. And I know that the obverse is also true, that the bookstore has been supporting them, has been supporting their habits, their love of literature. And so when it came time for this community to step up, and they didn't know. I mean, this was a complete surprise. This was an idea that a friend and a couple of friends said, this is what you need to do. So I made I wrote that letter. It's in the film, and we had, as I say in the film, uh, um, I wasn't surprised. I was completely I was surprised we got it so quickly. We got the thing so quickly. And then I was just more and more gratified every day. And still today, people are coming in saying, "Hey, I didn't know about the GoFundMe. Let me make a donation now. Or let me I want to buy a couple of books from you right now." And so the GoFundMe and the sense of support is still going strong.
So,
So,
Matt, a story by Heather Bello in the Berkshire Eagle recently
oh yeah.
reports another bookstore in the Berkshires that is now attempting a crowdsourcing effort post-pandemic. Is that an isolated incident, or is retail traffic still a precarious commodity for bookstores?
I don't know Giovanni well. I've been on the radio with him once, and I've seen him down at his shop once or twice. I don't know what his traffic is like. I know that it was a tough winter this year. It was a little tougher than before. Right after the pandemic, we started getting because people started moving to the Berkshires, and people didn't go away, and people so our winter months, which were usually pretty slow, stayed pretty high for a couple of years, and then this year it was a little lower. It was I could feel that myself. We're doing okay. We're still figuring out. We're still doing very well, thank you. But Giovanni must be. It's a tough location. I think he's not it's not a walk to location. It's not the shopping mall that I had been in, which was a completely untenable situation for them. Uh, so I don't know. I haven't really spoken to a lot of other retailers, but I have a sense that that must be it. It was just a little lower, a little slower this past winter. And if like in my situation when the pandemic hit, I was just struggling along like I usually do. But then this big thing happened, and suddenly I couldn't keep struggling. So the fact that maybe the debt is there to begin with, and then you add on the slowness of the trade, and it makes it really hard. So I know he's getting a couple of dollars more every day, I just checked a few minutes ago to see, and he's gotten more than, and I've donated, of course. And I remember that Pam, who owned the book loft before him, donated to my GoFundMe. So I knew as soon as I saw the story, and I didn't know it ahead of time, but I was right there for him.
Well, as you say, location can matter a lot. The length of time that a bookstore has been dug in
Yeah,
to a community. You have for a long time, right? Since I want to say 76.
1976. It was just, I think it was just yesterday. But apparently, when I see the pictures of the head of hair I have was like a lot darker.
Well, I have the same thing,
Yeah,
Matt.
you
We still have our hair.
Shh,
We still have
don't
our
you?
books.
Yeah, yeah. We still have our books and we still have our hair. Dalton, we're a two of a kind. We shouldn't brag too much because somebody's gonna, the kind of horror, the evil eye.
You are absolutely right. Now, okay, keep putting that evil eye aside. The future with young people is worrisome. There was a survey done last year of more than 70,000 children and young adults. Okay, it was by the National Literacy Trust. That revealed that only 28% of young people 8 to 18 read every day for enjoyment.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in your community?
I see the opposite. I see the opposite. I see young people, and how do we define young people between the ages
8
of
to 18 was the survey.
8 to 18? It's, after 12, we start losing a little bit. And because the kids discover other things to do. But before that, one of my favorite moments is the beginning of the summer when kids come back to town, and the door is open, and I hear from down the street, "Ma, the bookstore is open. Let's go, let's go." And so I hear this year after year after year. So I know that the young kids are still thrilled by the books, and certainly we're selling a lot more graphic novels, but we're selling, the big thing that the kids are reading now, from young groups, young kids up, are the Greek myths, all the series, all the graphic series, and the novelizations, the Rick Riordans, and the Mary Pope Osborne has Tales of the Odyssey. It's so they're getting that good information, that those good stories. The D'Aulaire Book of Greek Myths is still a bestseller for us. So, when they get to be a teenager, then I lose them, because although I don't really, because I supply the high school. So they don't know that they're still getting their books from me. And what happens, another favorite moment is the day after Thanksgiving. So the night before Thanksgiving, all the kids who've just gone away to college for the first time gather at the watering hole across the street. And the next day, Friday after Thanksgiving, they gather in the bookstore, and they meet, and where they remember getting their books when they were kids. And that's a lovely thing. And so, and I recognize some of the kids, even though they've shot up and they've grown up, but it's lovely. And they said, "That's the guy I used to buy my books from him. He's still here. How come he's still here?" I'm glad he's still here. And
I love it.
then of course my daughter is going to take over eventually. And a good friend of mine just said a couple of days ago, or a week or so ago, "How is she going to do what you do?" And my answer was very simply, she's not. She's going to do what she does. And she grew up in the store, and her children are growing up in the store. There's a great moment just a few weeks ago when she was at the register. I was floating between the Get Lit wine bar. We had a big event that day, or for Judith. And Sophie was at the bar, and Shawnee was at the front desk, and Sienna, after Shawnee sold the book, Sienna brought the bookmark over to the customer to put it in the book. So at 4 years old, she's working. So that's a lovely, lovely moment. And so they'll do what they do. And she has her friends who read books, and the kids who read books. So I'm not too concerned. We see it. I know out in the world it's different.
Yeah,
And
you're
and
passing it along, Matt. You're passing it along. The Surgeon General actually just came
right.
out with a proposal that Surgeon General's warning be put on social media for young people that is deleterious to their health or something to that effect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. It's troublesome and it's powerful. So but like so is tobacco.
there you go.
So was leaded gas. So it takes it's a struggle. It's the old struggle of good and evil. And here we are.
I'm as Manichean as you are. Now, Matt, among the many crossroads we've had together, I was a devoted customer at the much missed Gotham Book Mart. I like to say it was a diamond on the street of diamonds in New York City. You
Yes, it
got to
was.
start there. I met poets, famous and emerging in its aisles. Any particular story that stands out?
Oh, I was a kid. How I got to the Gotham was I was reading a book by Henry Miller, and a woman said to me, "If you like Miller, you should read Durrell and Nin, his friends." And the only place to get him is the Gotham Book Mart. And I walked in. I had no idea I was going to be a bookseller, but it was the wooden floor that got me. And that shelf, you remember the shelf? I think we talked about this. The shelf that had part of it was the Irish literature. So you had your Yeats and your Joyce and um, whoever else was there then, and then the beats. And you had a mix of poetry and prose. You had the Ginsberg poetry and you had Kerouac's novels. And then I think right next to it or very close was the Edward Gorey shelf, right? And all the Gorey books. And they were, at that time in the early 70s when I was there, Gorey was just starting to emerge as a writer in his own right. Bill Target Putnam put out the Amphigory, the collection of 15 Gorey stories. But Edward used to come in all the time. He was a lot of fun, and I used to sit with him. I not used to, but one time I sat with him while usually when an author comes in to sign a book, the bookseller, what his or her job is to open to the title page so the author can sign. Well, this was an edition of 500 copies of a little book called The Lavender Leotard about ballet. And I had to we sat up in the gallery. I had to open up every page while Edward hand colored the tutus in 500 books. I really kind of wish I remember any of the conversation we had, but unfortunately, that's long gone, long missing. But yeah, Gory was one. Salinger came in. I didn't recognize him, of course, because I didn't know what he looked like, because nobody knew what he looked like. And that was his way of being anonymous. And I remember that after he died, Lillian Ross told the story in the New Yorker about he would come into town all the time, but just nobody knew who he was. So he was actually sitting on the floor reading books in the place at the Gotham where I, as a stock boy, used to check in the new arrivals, and I had to move around this guy, and he was sitting there. You couldn't say, "Hey, Mister, would you move?" And then always it was only later that Diane came up from the front and said to Andy, "Hey, Mister Salinger left all his books here. Am I supposed to ship them?" And that's when I realized who I'd been tripping over all morning. So that was great. So I do have an Allen Ginsberg story, if I may. So
Sure.
Allen came in to sign copies of the introduction to Kerouac's Visions of Cody, which McGraw-Hill published after Kerouac had died, and it was a beautiful introduction. And and so I asked him to sign a copy for me. He came in to sign, and I asked him to sign some copies for me, a copy for me, and he did. And he inscribed it to me, my name, and he drew a little flower pot, and he wrote "Happy Hanukkah" and dated December 1972. And then I started asking him a question, and Allen Ginsberg says, "Listen, I came here to look at books. Don't you have work to do?" And he kind of pushed me off. I said, "All right, fine. That's yeah, sure." So 30 years later, Andy wants to sell the store and move to the new location. So I wanted to go visit the basement where I had been the stock boy and bringing up all these books. And so I have a nice conversation with Andy, and then he takes me out and introduces me to the kids working there. And he puts his arm around me because now we're colleagues. Before I was, I was his stock boy. But now where I'm a bookseller, just like him. And he puts his arm around me and he says, "This man worked here 30 years ago." So and they all look at me like I'm some old character. And I start going down the stairs and they start following me. And I turn around and I said, "Listen, I came here to look at books. Don't you have work to do?" So I was able to channel my Allen Ginsberg story without knowing that's what I was going to do.
No, that's a fantastic story,
That's
Matt. I hope that one day when your daughter takes over and someone else is in my chair here as well, your daughter at that time will have hair like yours and mine, and she'll be still talking to us about the bookstore.
Thank you,
That's my
Dalton.
sincere hope. It is a jewel, and as you said, it gives to the community as well as the community giving to it.
And we should the two of us should mention Irene. That Irene Rouse was this bookseller whom I knew when I was in DC, and you knew very well. And what a treat for you and I to meet and to have Irene, the memory of Irene and her bookstore, uh, uh, deep in our hearts as well as in our bones. So thank you, Irene.
Matt, thank you for that. Viewers, if you want to go back and find that column, I've written about my dear heart, Irene Rouse, fantastic bookseller of our mutual acquaintance, gone and terribly missed. Viewers, if you are already a subscriber to the Berkshire Eagle, thank you very much. If you're not yet, please consider becoming one. That is how you hear these sorts of conversations. That is how we keep the flame of journalism alive in America, just as Matt keeps books alive in America. I'm Dalton Delan. I'll see you next time on Eagle Reels and in the pages of the Berkshire Eagle.